Start counting.
So I really don't want to get into politics, but I'm just going to start off by saying it would take a lot of blood and guts for Donald Trump to really lift the restrictions this week like he said he would yesterday. It would take a lot of blood and guts for WWE to actually go live on April 4th and April 5th with WrestleMania rather than doing it taped. It would take a lot of blood and guts for AEW to be running blood and guts tomorrow night. And while all those things would be gutsy, they'd all be really, really stupid. So for people out there that are complaining there's no blood and guts tomorrow night, I get it. I really do. I would love to see that happen. I'd love to see what happened, what they set up last week. But here's the thing, folks. The President of the United States and the CDC are both recommending no gatherings of 10 or more people. If you're talking about blood and guts, that's a 5-on-5 match once everybody gets in there, plus the referee or two, however they were going to have, plus the cameraman right around the ring. It just is not feasible in the current climate. So yeah, they set it up last week. They probably were negotiating with TNT about whether they'd be able to do it. TNT nixed it, and they had to go to Plan B. I have absolutely no problem with it. And the same thing with WWE. Those guys are doing what they can to give us an entertaining wrestling product right now when nobody else is really able to run much. There's no baseball, there's no basketball, there's no, as Mark Henry said and cracked me up, there's no golf, tiddlywinks, marbles, or beanbag toss right now. It's pro wrestling or bust as far as live entertainment goes right now. And whether WrestleMania is live or not, does it make sense to do a show live when you don't know if there's going to be travel restrictions, when you don't know if somebody's going to get injured, you don't know how it's going to come off? It makes perfect sense to tape it if they're going to be doing it in an empty arena anyway. So anybody who's down on these companies for doing what they need to do and for giving us this entertainment, I am not down with you. I think you need to wake up and realize we're in a new normal right now until we're through all this. This is the way it's going to be, and we're going to need to get used to it and just accept what we can and just kind of, watch the people that are willing to give us the entertainment that we need during this time where we're all kind of crammed up in our houses and facing these shelter-in orders and this epidemic that increased by 33% yesterday. I haven't heard the numbers today, but 33% yesterday. 300 deaths to 400 deaths is crazy in one day. This is your host, Ann Manshi and Sabunia. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. My good buddy Jeff is on the other end. And how's it going tonight, Jeff?
Well, I'm sick of being at home. Other than that, everything's good. The part that I think annoys me the most about all of this is, never mind the fact that they're gonna, from what my understanding is, they're gonna tape a couple of matches a night to keep the amount of people not there. So, so that they can stay under their limit of the amount of people that they can have in one gathering. But regardless of that, and I'm talking about WrestleMania, but regardless of that, people just need to stay the fuck home. Seriously, this is never going to be over if people don't listen and stay home. I'm done with my rant.
If you obviously need groceries, you need to take care of a friend of yours or whatever, take care of a loved one that can't get out, but there's people in California where there's a shelter in order. They're going to the damn beach and hanging out, thousands of people at a time. Yeah. Are you kidding me? What is wrong with people?
And the Florida spring break people? Seriously. It's the average age of Florida is over 60 years old, and everybody goes down there for spring break just to kill off Florida. It's just mind-boggling. I get it. Like you said, occasionally, I needed to go out today to get something from the gas station. But I made sure I brought along Clorox wipes and everything, and it's not even in. I think there's only one confirmed case in our county. But it's still the fact that still the fact that, I went out and needed to get something, so I brought along Clorox wipes. I made sure that everything, was handled with care. And then you've got people on the beach in Florida just piling on top of each other. I get it. You think you're not in the risk age band, but the reality is you could still carry it to someone else. Just stay home. It's not that difficult. Go to the store if you need to get groceries, but for the most part, stay home. We have internet.
Tampa Bay already had a bad 1-2 punch with having WrestleMania canceled and getting the old decrepit Tom Brady on their team. Do they really need to have people dying from COVID-19 all at the same time? Come on.
Oh, poor Tampa Bay. At least they still have Jacksonville. Lord knows my Dolphins aren't going to be.
The home of AEW, Jacksonville, Florida.
Right. So, I mean, and this week, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time. You want to listen to COVID-19 talk, you got CNN. Just try not to get too paranoid because of the fear-mongering that unfortunately happens. We'll do our best to not really talk a whole ton about it. We actually, thankfully for wrestling, we get entertainment, and thankfully for streaming services, we get a chance to go backwards in time and watch this entertainment. And tonight, we're going to talk about something that happened within the last few months.
Absolutely, and I just wanted, I don't want to, like it's Jeff said, we don't have her on this, but he did say, don't panic and don't buy into the hysteria, which I totally agree with. But at the same time, also use common sense, use the precautions they're recommending. We're going to be okay. You don't need 800 rolls of toilet paper, but we're going to be okay.
I need 800 rolls of toilet paper. I poop a lot.
I actually saw a buddy post on Facebook that all the people whose houses I toilet papered when I was younger, you're welcome.
Right. Exactly. And guys, if you're looking for more wrestling entertainment, of course, check out our YouTube. Unfortunately, while I am being a stay-at-home dad and working at home too, we're not able to do our weekly or our bi-weekly shows that we've been doing exclusively for YouTube. We're going to have to suspend our Patreon exclusives, but Jesus, we still have a ton of content out there. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Also check out our Patreon. Our Patreon has a ton of content on there, and we've got some great subscribers. Clifford is one of them, Kathy and Ryan, Michael, Steven. We appreciate all of it and everyone who's a subscriber, and I'm actually contemplating, I'm still running finances and everything, but I'll probably end up giving a free month to everybody who's a subscriber here in the next couple of months. But there's tons of content on there, so head over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. A small donation to us really helps us out, and it gives you guys a ton of content to listen to.
It's interesting. We talked about you guys don't usually talk about the business end of that very much, but is there a way to set it up so that if somebody buys pays for 5 months, they get a month free? So basically, they're getting 6 months for the price of 5.
Not yet, but I did just recently, within the last couple of days, I set it up so that if anybody were to sign up after the first of the month, they get that entire month for free. So anybody that signs up for right now, they do get the rest of this month for free, and then it wouldn't charge them until the first of next month. And I'm for the people that are already subscribed, I'm looking into possibly giving them. It won't be April, guys, but I'm thinking about May and just giving you guys the month of May free for anybody that's already subscribed. And then anybody that subscribes now going forward, the way that I have it set up is if you subscribe after I want to say it's like the 4th or the 5th of the month, you'll get the remainder of the month for free. So right now you
Why don't we give them April for free? We don't even know if there'll be any new content in April.
That's a good point. Well, I have a feeling that things are gonna even out a little bit in my life, so we might be able to start doing at least a Patreon exclusive show next week.
Okay.
That should be a doable thing. But I am planning on giving our current subscribers, because we do have a lot of faithful people that have stuck with us through some ups and downs, and especially in the beginning stages of all this. So I am definitely giving you guys a month. The people that are subscribers currently, I'm going to give you guys 1 month free. Like I said, I just don't know if it's going to be April because I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do it.
Like Jeff said, we got plenty of content out there we can cover. So don't worry that Kingdom Honor won't be around, even if I mean, we know that NJPW is canceled through the end of May. We know that Impact is basically shut down through the end of May. Same with NWA. Same with Ring of Honor. But we're still we still have other things we can cover. You know, don't worry, we're not going to be around. You know, we've talked about covering Will Ospreay's free show on YouTube. I think we're doing that next week. We're going to cover WrestleMania for sure. We're not going to preview WrestleMania because goddamn that would kill me. But we're going to preview it. But we're going to review it. And then we're talking about doing Bound for Glory 2005, which is one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views. And I think it's a good way to look at it to see. Rhino leaves that title as the world champion. Leaves that pay-per-view as the world champion. Spoiler alert. But then he loses it 2 days later of the TV tapings to Jeff Jarrett. So
wasn't that also
to see like, you know, what could have happened if they let Rhino stay on top of that promotion?
That was also the night of
what fires he was on.
That was also the night of the greatest match in TNA history, wasn't it? The triple threat match with Samoa Joe, AJ, and CD.
I'm pretty sure that was exactly 1 month later.
Okay, I know it was 2005, but I can't remember which. I couldn't remember if it was Bound for Glory or if it was the next pay-per-view.
It was Unbreakable.
Okay.
But I which I think was the next one. But I believe this is also the first night of the very first Monsters Ball, and I think it's AJ versus Christopher Daniels in a 30-minute Iron Man.
And keep in mind, another thing that we want to cover is one of our favorites, Killer Cross. He made his debut on MLW, and he's feuding with Filthy Tom Lawler. So we'll be covering. They've had a couple of matches. 2 weeks ago it was a one-on-one. This last week it was a 8-man tag between Team Filthy and the Von Erichs, Killer Cross, and Davey Boy Smith. So it's definitely something I want to watch. And I know we talked about covering that as well. So we do have a lot of content coming up over the next couple of weeks. And by the time we get through all this, I'm sure we'll figure out some more stuff. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. So tonight we're covering, as Jeff and I covered, Hard to Kill, Impact's latest pay-per-view offering, and you know, unfortunately, it's going to be the last event for a while. Well, not the last event for a while. They did do a couple since then, but the last pay-per-view event, at least for a while. Their lockdowns canceled. I think their next pay-per-view Unbreakable also. That's canceled too.
I don't think it was Unbreakable, was it? I thought it was something with an R.
Redemption?
Yeah, I believe.
Could be. I don't remember, but their next one that was coming up is canceled as well, but or postponed at least. But you know, basically we felt, well, I liked Hard to Kill better than Jeff did, but we both felt far and away the best match on that show, and one of the top 5 matches of the year was Eddie Edwards versus Michael Elgin.
Top 5? Wasn't it one of the top 5 TNA matches of all time? It was definitely on the short list of top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, but top 5 for this year as well. I'd
right.
say. So. Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely one we had it at least in our top 10 of TNA matches of all time. I think it did land in our top 5, didn't it?
I want to say it did. I mean, we kind of off the cuffed it, but it was hard to find 5 matches that were better. I don't, there's 3 or 4, but it was really hard to find 5 total matches that were better than this. This was probably one of my favorite matches of all time, and that's what. And I want to get the negative out of the way right off the bat. I was hoping.
You're breaking up quite a bit, brother.
Everything has been shit lately. I've noticed that too on your end. But I was hoping for 5 matches of equal to at least comparable quality to that pay-per-view. I don't think we got that.
I didn't hear a word you said until you said I don't think we got that.
Well, the I was hoping for 5 matches between Eddie and Elgin that were equivalent or at least comparable to what we got at the pay-per-view, and I don't think we got that out of any of these 5. I felt like their match at the pay-per-view, Hard to Kill, was so well done. It was such a great back and forth. It made them both look great, and I felt like the first 2 matches, Eddie looked kind of like a chump. Um, and it was mainly to continue a Michael Elgin storyline.
I guess I can see where you're coming from with that. I actually enjoyed most of the matches. What were they as good as we saw in the pay-per-view? No, but it's tough. It's tough to necessarily always have that with a TV match where there's more time limitations on it. Um, Sometimes there's more crowd limitations on it, and they were trying to tell a story throughout this thing rather than it just being a one-off match. And a lot of this stemmed from something that happened in that match between the two of them, which is that Michael Elgin had Eddie Edwards in the crippler crossface. And yes, I'm still going to call it the crippler crossface. I know people don't like Chris Benoit anymore, but that's the name of the damn move.
Wondered if you were going to do that.
So we're still going to call it that, and I do want to watch that the latest Dark Side of the Ring about Chris Benoit and David Benoit. I'll probably watch that tonight or tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, Elgin and then Edwards was crawling towards the ropes. He slammed his head on the mat one time, and which really these days could be considered a tap out. And Elgin was arguing that he actually submitted. What ended up costing him the match is he was arguing with the referee that Edwards had submitted. Edwards, then he goes for the Elgin bomb. Edwards rolls him up, and Edwards gets his first ever win over Michael Elgin. So now we roll into this best of 5 with Elgin saying, "Hey, I beat you," and Edwards saying, "No, I pinned you." And whoever wins this best of 5 is going to get the trophy, the Call Your Shot trophy, to get a shot at whatever title they want. But Elgin says he's going to challenge Tessa Blanchard, and then Edwards said, "Yeah, I'll do the same thing." And so I thought they had a nice story coming in it, and we kind of saw that first match. Elgin proved his point. Edwards again didn't tap out to the crippler crossface, but he did pass out to the crossface.
Which I didn't have a problem with that. My problem with it was they were so evenly matched in the Hard to Kill match that during this one, it just seemed like Eddie got his ass kicked from pillar to post. He didn't seem like he was in the match at all. He got, 1 or 2, maybe 3 decent moves off, but for the most part, Michael Elgin just literally kicked his ass for 15 minutes. It just...
Right, and he did... And, go ahead.
It just, to me, I would have rather seen... I was okay with the finish. I was okay with Edwards, passing out and Michael Elgin proving his point. I just wish it had been a little bit more like it was with Hard to Kill, where Michael Elgin beat his ass because of the power, but then Eddie was able to get some technical moves on him and just make it a little more competitive of a match. To me, it just seemed like it was it was like, okay, everything you guys have done, we don't care anymore. We're going to do this now.
Well, I think they were trying to tell the story because the second match, a lot of that the same thing, where Elgin was hitting Edwards. Edwards would try to hit him back and try to stand there and take it, and he would get hit and hit and hit, and he finally ended up succumbing to the Elgin bomb.
Right.
And so then it's 2-0, and Elgin basically throughout their feud he'd been just hitting Edwards with everything he had, and Elgin is a big, strong guy, built like a tank, basically Dr. Death Steve Williams, but for the 2000s. And Edwards would stand there and take it because if we look back at 2011, which we're covering right now, Edwards was nowhere near as built as he is these days. I mean, he looks like a totally different guy. Not the way that Michael Cole does or that Tommaso Ciampa does, but
Adam Cole, not Michael.
Still could be Eddie Edwards. Yeah, might as well be Michael.
He's better on the mic than Michael.
Yeah, he's still clearly Eddie Edwards, but certainly he's a lot more built and with more mileage on him and just a bigger, stronger guy than he was back in 2011. But still, trying to stand toe-to-toe with a guy that's built like a tank, even if you're almost the same size, it's going to take its toll on you. I think that's what they were trying to tell, is that, yeah, Edwards was able to withstand that and get some strikes back at hard to kill. But the more he takes it, the more it's weighing on him. And so then in the third and fourth matches, he started ducking out of the way and avoiding those shots rather than standing up to them.
See,
and he was able to get roll-up victories in those two. Go ahead.
To me, that storyline would have made more sense if they had done it on back-to-back weeks. The fact that they had breaks in between gave Eddie time to heal. So it just... I get where they were going with the whole taking its toll and everything, but the fact that they had breaks in between the matches and it wasn't 5 straight weeks, I would have gotten that storyline a little bit more if they would have came out of Hard to Kill and immediately had a match, storyline 4 days later, 5 days later. That would have made more sense. But the fact that they had, was it a week or was it 2 weeks? 2-week break before that first match, and then they had a week break in between the first and second match. It just, Eddie had his time to heal, so where that story that they were trying to tell just wasn't as believable to me as it would have been had they been just, boom, 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 back-to-back weeks. I could see that a little bit more where he's like, oh my God, Eddie's getting his butt kicked, he's worn out. I think that might have been where my issue was.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I totally see that, but here's my counter to that. They said both in the first couple of matches of this series and in the match at Hard to Kill that these matches were taking years off these men's careers, which is a cliche we've heard in wrestling over and over again. But I think the point in this feud was that they were proving that was the case. Like, it didn't matter that there was a 2-week break between two matches, or there was a 1-week break between two other matches, or there was a 3-week break there in there as well. It was simply the fact that Edwards couldn't keep taking those shots or he was going to risk his career. He had to find another way to counter Elgin because he's such a tough customer, and he kept hitting him on and on and on, and they were having this series of matches. You could train for that and you could try to build yourself up for it, but if you're also quick enough to duck those shots and get out of the way of them, why stand there and take it and get your ass kicked?
Right. Yeah,
and so Edwards found a different way to wrestle him, and then was able to get the roll-up victories in the third and fourth matches when he was, in sudden death, basically.
I did really like the fact that he won the third match by outsmarting Michael Elgin. And that's literally what he did with the roll-up, is he just outsmarted Michael Elgin, and once he was able to do that, then it made everything a little bit more tolerable. The fourth match, I thought, was amazing. That was right back to what I had expected out of Hard to Kill.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
probably the shortest match of the series, wasn't it? The fourth one?
Yeah, it really was. The fifth match I thought was really, really good. In fact, probably the best of the 5 was the fifth match. It's so.
Wait. Before we move on to the fifth, I'm sorry. Before we move on to the fifth one, though, you said you liked the fourth one so much, but you didn't talk about the way that one ended with Michael Elgin trying to get cute and get a roll-up the way Edwards did, and then Edwards again outsmarting him by doing a double roll-up to pin him.
Yeah, and I mean that was a really, it was showing, where we got to see Michael Elgin's power in the first two and just decimated Eddie because he overpowered him. It was nice seeing Eddie outsmart Michael for 2 straight matches.
Exactly.
And then going into the fifth match, it was, I hate to say it, but ever since, now we're bringing back Benoit again, but the Benoit Booker T best of 5 was the only one I've ever seen a best of series where it hasn't had a finish like what we saw. And the whole time I was watching the finish of this match, I was thinking exactly what you said it might have been last year sometime, but we were watching something where there was a timer, and somebody tapped out with 1 second left on the timer. And the finish of this match kind of brought me back to that. When you hear the ref counting 1, 2, why would you tap out?
It was, you're talking about the Iron Man match between Jay Lethal and
Jonathan Gresham.
Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah.
He tapped out with a minute to go in that Iron Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, couldn't you hold on for that extra half a second? And then the fact that it was badly timed anyway. He did clearly tap out, a good 2 to 3 seconds after the final pin, or the final, after the 3 count. So he didn't time it very well, first of all, and secondly, why? Why would anybody tap out at that moment? That would have been a good spot for a double pin, maybe. You had the 2 referees in the match. Why not have a double pin situation where one referee saying, no, I counted his shoulders down, the other one saying, oh, I counted his, instead of the way they did it where I counted this, but the other guy saw the tap, so he, claimed that was the victory. It's just that ending just, to me, was more maddening than anything, because it just didn't make any sense at all in like the real world.
The other big problem with it, Jeff, was that the announcers made it a point to say that Eddie Edwards had never tapped in his career.
Right.
During this series. And that's why he lost by pass out in that first match. He was never going to tap out. He had too much heart to ever give up. And I guess technically he has not lost a match by tap out still, but he did tap out in this match. So they can't really ever say that anymore, that he would never tap out, because he proved that he would in this match when he was in the position to win, like, to your point.
I mean,
we've rarely seen it done. I don't think I've ever seen this particular type of finish done this poorly before.
No, I haven't either.
In such a poor situation.
And it was the whole setup to it with, like you said, the fact that, Eddie Edwards has never tapped out. He's got this iron heart type thing, and, he'll never give up. And that's basically Eddie's whole gimmick, is that he's never going to tap out. And then the fact that he not only tapped out, now you took away one of Eddie's probably biggest points to his gimmick. You timed it badly, so it looked horrible on TV. It made no sense to the way just common people live. There was so much wrong with it that it really kind of took down what was a hell of a good match.
Yeah, it did, and really, I was hoping they wouldn't do this. I was hoping that they would actually have a winner and not go to this stupid draw type of finish here and then set up a triple threat. I mean, first of all, we don't need a damn triple threat as the main event of a world title pay-per-view. It's Tessa Blanchard's first ever world title defense on a pay-per-view, and now she's going to defend it against 2 guys that have been kicking each other's ass for the last 3 months. And I realize it's not going to happen right now. It's going to be postponed, and they're going to have to do something to build it back up. But still, it does not make any sense to do this at this particular juncture, because now what's going to end up happening, in my opinion, is Tessa Blanchard in her first defense is going to beat the 2 toughest guys in the company. No, that should not be the case.
I could have bought into it. Had I forgotten the Hard to Kill match period, and just followed the story of, the power and the, outsmarting each other and all this stuff. With the first 2 matches, it was Elgin with the power. The second 2 matches, it was Eddie with the, the brains and the technique. Had it been done in a way where, Eddie, or Michael, had hit like a bridging suplex, and somehow Eddie had been able to hold his shoulders down while he was getting counted out, that would have made more sense to the story that was being told through the 5 matches. It would have made more sense to the way, these 2 being evenly matched, just one being a little smarter, one being a little stronger. If there had been something like that, where it had been a double count out, as opposed to basically taking Eddie's entire character and destroying it over 5 matches, I think I would have been a little more happy with it.
I agree with that, but I still didn't want it to end this way at all. I
would have rather
be a decisive victor.
Yeah, I would have rather had that too, because, and I don't know who I would have rather had. I mean, they both have their benefits, but I think the ending, either way, had it been a decisive victor or even the double pin, I think could have been done so much better to protect both these guys. Because let's face it, Tessa might be your champion. Sammy is probably the best overall character, but Eddie and Michael Elgin are the two workhorses of this company. They're the two, top draws when it comes to believability in the main event, when it comes to actual wrestling performances. These two have been on fire for over a year. So to see,
I would have said that about Brian Cage, 2 years ago, but he's basically taken the last year off. He's been ridiculous in his time off.
Yeah, he really hasn't been around. Even they've done. I don't know if he's in a contract thing or what, but you're right. He hasn't been around.
But who takes basically a year off because you get married? I mean, what the hell?
God, I wish I could have. I might actually get married again.
Yeah, you'd probably like to have the years off your marriages, actually.
Well, there's that, but that's besides the point. I don't know. I just when you look at these two, these are probably the two top guys. And give everything I can to Impact. They've done a lot. They've got some great storylines going on. They're building some good young talents. They're relying a little too much on the old ECW guys, but they are starting to get a little bit away from that. And to me, Eddie and Michael Elgin are probably the two top stars in that company right now. When you take out Sammy, who's ever since he lost the belt has really been non-existent.
Yep, that's his whole thing. Is he was going to come up? He's going to come back when Tessa Blanchard least expects it.
Well, hopefully it's soon, because the show really is missing without him. Although I am liking the. I did watch the second one because I wanted to watch the Ace Austin Tessa Blanchard match, which I thought was phenomenal. I hated the ending with Taya Valkyrie coming in, and then all of a sudden Taya is now challenging for the World Heavyweight title. Didn't make sense to me, but regardless, there was one spot that happened right before that match where Johnny Swinger has been trying to get Willie Mack to be his tag partner, and then we get Disco Inferno coming back. I want to see where this goes. I never liked Johnny Swinger. I don't know that I've ever liked Disco Inferno, but the two of them together is intriguing.
Okay, so yeah, the Ace Austin versus Tessa Blanchard match, I would not say was phenomenal. It was very good for what it was, but it didn't even have an ending. How could you say it was phenomenal?
I thought the match, the build-up, I thought the way that those two have some pretty decent chemistry. I liked a lot of the match, but that ending was just not good.
As far as saying, it doesn't make sense for you act like it didn't make sense for Taya Valkyrie to be Tessa Blanchard's next challenger for the world title, which is absolutely incorrect. It makes perfect sense because she beat her for the Knockouts Championship. Well, she pinned Tessa Blanchard to win that championship. She beat her again in a no-holds-barred match for that championship. And she is the longest reigning, not just Knockouts champion, but the longest reigning champion, period, in Impact history. And so now that there's a woman on top, it made perfect sense for Taya and Tessa to be the first two women to wrestle for that championship.
And that, while I agree with that, I'm still
and they had a fantastic match on Impact the next week, so I'm guessing you didn't watch it.
No, I haven't yet. It's on. I'm saved. It's ready to go. I was gonna watch it, and then all hell broke loose, so I didn't get a chance to. But I understand where that story is coming from, and the fact. I think what I'm upset about is more the fact that Tessa really became the king of the mountain way too early. I think she deserved the title at some point, but I still think it came too early. I want to say a good 6 to 8 months too early. I think she should have struggled and won a few more tournaments to get other, title shots. I don't think she should have won her very first ever title shot.
I agree that she got it too early for her career, but I think for the story they were telling, she had to win it at the time she won it, unfortunately. But I also think that Taya was the right challenger for that time because she was one that had a legitimate stake to a claim against Tessa Blanchard. Really the only one that did besides Ace Austin and and Michael Elgin. Michael Elgin, Sammy Callahan, and you could argue Brian Cage, but but Tessa
I'm
Blanchard had, or
on the
Taya
radio
Valkyrie
right
had
now,
the
bro.
legitimate claim because she had won the Knockout Championship from Tessa Blanchard and had never been beaten by Tessa. And
Yeah.
now that she lost to Tessa, it's really put together a nice storyline for Taya where she's kind of having this, she lost the Knockouts Championship, she lost her shot at the Impact Championship, and now she's kind of in a downward spiral. At the same time that Rosemary's on a downward spiral, so now these two frenemies are back together again, which is
Which,
really kind of an interesting storyline.
yeah, I like anything that's got Rosemary in it lately. She's on fire. Ever since she came back from the Great Beyond and her little um, whatever was going on with Allie, I think she's been great. And we got to hear
I do
Jessica
feel like Su
Havoc
Yung.
talk too. So
Yeah, I do feel like we got Su Yung. I think we feel like we got Su Yung back too soon, though.
I don't know. We got to hear Jessica Havoc talk. So there's that.
I know, but we did. But I think that Susie hadn't. I don't think Susie had run its course yet. I thought
No.
there was more to her story that to be told before the Su Yung came back.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is true. And I will say that I am impressed with who Impact's doing. They've always been on top of the game when it comes to the Knockouts division, even storyline wise. And that goes back to the old TNA 2007, 8, 9 time. They've always known exactly what to do with women, how to tell stories with women. I think they've done a really good job with a lot of their male talent. My only downfall with them has been the reliance on the ECW originals, especially people like Rob Van Dam. Otherwise, I think
Yeah,
Impact is doing a fantastic job with what they've got to work with.
yeah, if it was just a couple of guys, like, and Sabu coming back to help Rhino was just ridiculous.
Right.
But if it was just Rhino and Ken Shamrock, I think I'd be just fine with it. But Johnny Swinger being around is really irritating, especially when he doesn't even have Simon Diamond there to be with him anymore.
Right.
I mean, no fault to Impact. Simon Diamond, passed away as a member of the Impact roster years and years ago. But that was the only time that Johnny Swinger was interested in me was when he was in team with Simon Diamond. And then Rob Van Dam, we've already talked about, is not what he used to be, but actually this stuff with Joey Ryan is intriguing too. So I don't know. I think they've really kind of found a nice niche for Rob Van Dam, obviously as a heel right now.
I have been fast forwarding anytime he's on my screen, so I haven't even seen anything going on with Joey Ryan.
Oh, you definitely should go back and watch it.
All right, maybe I will.
The stuff with Joey Forbes, with Katie Forbes, Joey Ryan, and Rob Van Dam has been very interesting.
All right, maybe I'll go back and watch it. It annoys me when he talks about how everybody steals his moves. And the only reason there's wrestlers now is because of him. And we've talked about it before. He was the farthest thing from an innovator. He created some decent moves out of chairs, but outside of one or two chair shot moves, I can't look at him as being an innovator of offense when you've got guys like Alex Shelley and Shane Helms and people like that out there, and Mortis.
Sure.
Mortis is another one. All from around the same time.
And then there are other member of their roster that's a hardcore. You're never going to get me to say a bad thing about Tommy Dreamer. So,
I can't either.
So I mean, for me, Tommy Dreamer can do what he does, till he's 80 years old, and I'll be fine with it, just like his hero Terry Funk did. So
Tommy Dreamer, after he shed his pretty boy image in ECW, he hasn't done a single thing wrong since.
Right, and that's one reason why I suggested, that if depending on how long this thing lasts that we're going through right now, I mean, finding some House of Hardcore to watch and cover, I think would be an amazing thing, because that's focuses on the indies that we like. It also has some ECW stuff to it. It's got some fun shit going on in it, and it's Tommy Dreamer. So, I would love to be able to watch some House of Hardcore with you and talk about it.
Yeah, there's been a few times that I've kind of groaned at some Tommy Dreamer matches because they kind of run him out there to do the same shtick over and over and over again. But when you watch it and actually dissect what Tommy is doing, the fact that he's 53 years old now, and still able to perform the way that he does and take the bumps that he takes it's very Terry Funk. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's three guys that are hardcore legends. You're never going to get me to say anything bad about. One is Terry Funk, one is Mick Foley, and one is Tommy Dreamer.
Don't get me wrong. When they have a shit match, I'll call them out on it. But ultimately, for their career, I'm never going to dog any of those three.
Right, and I think two of those three have a legitimate claim to being considered the best of all time. And they're not, in my opinion, the best of all time, but I think they're a legitimate claim to it. So.
For hardcore legends or in general?
Well, I mean, you and I have talked about how Terry Funk is kind of like the ultimate professional wrestler, in that he would do anything he could to win a match.
Right.
And he has such a career. He has such a career that he basically had like three stages of his career where he was fantastic. So if somebody were to argue with me that Terry Funk is the greatest wrestler of all time, I would certainly sit down and listen and hear that.
And have the discussion, especially when you look back at his early career when he was such a great technical wrestler. He's a lot like Chris Jericho, where he just constantly reinvented himself, and he was able to do it in a way that carved him out as one of the best of all time in a couple of different genres. Like, he might be one of the best hardcore wrestlers of all time, but he could possibly be one of the best technical wrestlers too.
Exactly. So, and then Mick Foley. I don't think you can make a legitimate argument that Mick Foley is the greatest wrestler of all time. But if somebody were to try, I would certainly listen to it. And I think a large part of that would be the guys that he put over to get to the top. The guys that he put over, like Steve Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker and Triple H and Randy Orton and Edge. Those are 6 Hall of Fame caliber guys that would not be where they are in their career without the contributions of Mick Foley.
Well, and not just that. When you look back at it was a match he had against
Vader's another one. It was
a match he had against Shawn Michaels in '95.
Mind Games? 96.
Was it 96? Where he you look at the way that he created matches, and that's a perfect example of the match he had against Shawn, where he took real life situations and somehow worked them into matches, to the point where they looked like it was legitimate, but it ended up being kayfabe, or ended up being a work the whole time. Where Shawn always had a temper when somebody blew a move, and he would noticeably yell at people and call people out in the ring when they blow a move. And there was one spot in that match they had in Mind Games where Mick, they had planned that Mick would blow a move and Shawn would just yell at him in the middle of the match to give it a little bit more energy. So when you look at something like that, Mick has got an amazing wrestling mind to be able to pull something like that off.
Yeah, to me, the only thing that keeps him out of that discussion is just that his body was so broken down, he really couldn't have that much longevity.
Yeah, he really did have a short career. He had a stint in, in WCW, then that little run in ECW, which was great, when he basically spit on the WCW titles. And then his run as Mankind up until. And he was the most entertaining commissioner we ever had on WWE TV too.
I don't know. What about Sergeant Slaughter?
No,
it's Mick Foley. You're right.
I think between Foley and maybe Steven Regal or William Regal, they might have been, because I think Foley's antics with Edge and Christian and Jericho's antics with William Regal are some of the best commissioner moments ever.
I think so too, but I don't know that I want to sit there and grading commissioner moments. So
no. Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested to see what these companies are going to do, like Impact and Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor's already said they're going to be putting together television packages with matches nobody has ever seen before, which is great. But I wonder, how these other companies are going to be able to kind of make hay with it. Impact has only had their own network for 6 months now, and now they're kind of handicapped by this. New Japan is going to have yet another year where their tournaments are all fucked up because the Olympics were just moved yesterday to 2021 in Japan rather than 2020. So now for 2 straight years, the G1 is going to be moved, if they can even have it this year. So I mean, it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to me to see how these wrestling organizations recover from this stuff going on. But if you're an independent pro wrestler, I think it's a good time for you to catch. Yeah, you're struggling. You're not going to have the money coming in, which really sucks. But the other way to look at it is, you can heal from those nagging injuries. You can think about things to do with your character and new moves and practice that kind of stuff. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing what these companies and wrestlers do when they're able to come back and work crowds again and do the stuff that they love. I just think that we need to all, as wrestling fans, I think we need to all take kind of heart into something that Lizzie Hale said, which is, as much as a performer and as a fan, I want to get out there and perform. You have to realize that you can't right now. Make an album or work on your riffs or write a book or something. Because this virus doesn't care how brave you are, and if you want to just show how brave you are, go lick a toilet seat.
Right. Exactly. I'm interested to see what AEW is going to do tomorrow night. I really am. I wonder if they're going to be able to have a show like they did last week, which I thought was really well done. I want to see how much more food Sean Spears can eat in a 2-hour episode. Dude had to have gained 20 pounds last week. I don't know. Have you heard anything? Are they going to do like WWE's been doing, where they're showing classic matches, which I guess they don't really have?
They've got a card announced.
Okay, they're just canceling because of the amount of people involved in the War Games match. They're just canceling that.
Yeah, and and really, the other thing with that is, do you really want to be doing a match called Blood and Guts, where you're going to probably have lots of blood in a time where people's health is a huge concern? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's probably a wiser idea, and it's something that they can always postpone. I mean, the storyline, I don't know if they're going to be able to continue the Adam Page story long enough to do it, but who knows? It is something that they can always still they can always still work somehow the Elite versus the Inner Circle, even if Page is still the good guy or a bad guy, or if they have to bring in somebody else. Nick will be healthy by then, so who knows how they'll do it.
They are doing a live face-to-face with Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho for the first time ever tomorrow night.
First time ever?
First time ever.
Wow.
And they're doing this will be interesting in the era of social distancing, is they're doing a lumberjack match.
Interesting. How can they do
Luchasaurus against Wardlow, if I'm not mistaken.
How can they do that when they can't have more than 10 people there?
And then get this. Our boy, Kenny Omega, will be defending the AAA Mega Championship against the Spanish God.
Oh my God. I've never been so excited to watch a Dynamite.
And we also get Cody versus Jimmy Havoc.
Again, it's nice to see Jimmy Havoc back on TV too.
Isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, they're doing another solid wrestling show tomorrow night.
Well, good, and I hope they're able to pull off what they did last week, because I thought last week was a really good job.
Yeah, and you mentioned doing things like WWE is doing. WWE has been showing classic matches, but they've also been doing in-ring segments. They've been doing matches. They've been doing stuff to set up Daniel Bryan versus Sammy for the Intercontinental Championship. They've been doing stuff to set up the tag team title matches and stuff like that. So it isn't like they're not doing matches at all. It's just that they're doing a limited number of them, which is totally understandable.
I think on Raw last night they did three, maybe 4 matches. So they didn't do a whole ton. But they did do some really good segments.
I haven't watched last week's Raw. Go ahead.
They did do a couple of really good segments. One that is really making me interested is Rollins versus Owens. Rollins called into in a promo he did last night, which people are claiming is probably the best promo he's done in years. They're calling it. He was calling into the fact that he's undefeated at WrestleMania, or not undefeated, but his win-loss record at WrestleMania is almost unblemished, where Kevin Owens is never won at WrestleMania.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know Kevin Owens had never won at WrestleMania, but I guess that's true. So Rollins' only defeat at WrestleMania was the same night he won the World Championship.
Yeah,
right?
His only defeat was when he that ridiculous RKO from Randy Orton, and then he went on later
and then
that
that same night
title.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good record.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
The only other guy that can really claim that, well, I shouldn't say the only other guy, but it kind of harkens back to when Edge and The Undertaker faced each other at WrestleMania 24. They were both undefeated at WrestleMania at that point.
Right.
Really?
So.
All right. Well,
really what?
Arnold. He's decided he doesn't want to sleep right now.
Okay.
So.
Any more social media you need to hit tonight?
No, but let me recap it again. YouTube, of course, if you're listening to us, like it, subscribe it, share it, ring the notification bell. We're going to be getting back hopefully soon, once things settle down a little bit on my end, to doing the exclusive show every other week. Also, our Patreon, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. It's a great way to help support us, and you get a lot of content by doing so. So, and of course, Twitter. I'm at Reggie Co-op. He's at ZanmanLOP. Use hashtag DAD and hashtag KOH, and we love to talk to everybody that we can. Well, I do anyway.
We really shouldn't have given Taz as much love as we gave him last week, because now we're going to be competing against Taz.
Oh, what the? Damn it, Taz.
AEW announces Taz will live recap tomorrow night's Dynamite episode right after it goes off the air on YouTube.
You know what, Taz?
Official YouTube page.
You know what, Taz? I take back every nice thing I've ever said about you.
Yeah, Taz, you're right 4 or 3 listeners away from us. What the hell?
Right.
Anyway.
Give us that hour. You can recap it at 10 p.m. Give us that 9 o'clock hour.
But we will be back with you tomorrow night for Dynamite After Dark, and then again next Tuesday we'll be back with you with more Kingdom of Honor, talking about the latest free show from Will Ospreay on YouTube. And stay tuned tomorrow night to
Us.
Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday, I don't know if NWA Legacy Series is still going on, but if they are, listen to them on Friday. That's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights. And Jeff saying...
Goodbye.